Liftoff will 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey. We are back. It is the end of NFL Divisional Week. Fred, Ray, it has been a wild week. For those of you guys that are joining us on this podcast, thank you for joining us. I'm Alex. I'm joined by my buddies, Fred and Ray. We are three guys.
What's up?
Crap about sports. We are not analysts. We're not insiders. We're not really anything at all. We just talk sports until we're blue in the face. And we're here to talk NFL football playoffs. Guys, how are we tonight?
Not too bad. We're also doing a little bit of coverage on the national championship tonight. Number 10, Miami against number 1, Indiana. So far, it has been a very defensive battle, but right now, Indiana's driving down the field. They just passed the 40-yard line, so we may be looking at our first set of points in the national championship coming up here.
All right. So Ray will be keeping us loaded into that game, keeping us plugged in. But guys, we have a lot to cover tonight. A lot has happened in the NFL in the divisional round. Some surprises. One thing for me, though, in this NFL playoffs, and we'll talk about this more, we had 2 games this round go to overtime. While it hasn't been the first time in NFL history, it certainly is a rarity, and it's been a while since we've seen it, so we'll talk about that. We also have some coaching fires and maybe some potential hires coming down the pike. We're going to be talking about that. And we're going to be talking
happy about those hires. Let's just throw that out there.
We'll
this
get
has been
to
a
that.
terrible offseason for Green Bay already. I'm not a fan of it at all.
And we'll get to Ray's consistent disappointments with the Packers of Green Bay, as we always do. And then we're going to take a look and forecast.
That was a low blow.
But not undeserved. Yeah. Not undeserved. And we will make our picks for the championship round, and we will make our picks for who's going to be representing the NFC and AFC in Super Bowl 60. Guys, we got a lot to talk about. How are we feeling after this, honestly, kind of wild divisional round in the NFL?
Honestly, I got to say this. My hopes and my aspirations for how the playoffs would end up kind of, if I didn't have those same hopes and far-fetched dreams, it honestly was easy to pick. The top teams took the top seeds. Like that was really, really how it turned out. But you know, the fight to get there sure seemed a lot more interesting than what the outcome was. And we'll touch on some of those games, but I think it was even though the predictability of the winners turned out to be the way it was, I still think it's been an exciting, very exciting playoffs. And as we've always talked about, special teams making a big break. So, yeah.
My takeaway from the divisional round is something I was going to do a segment on a while ago, but a good friend of ours had some health issues, and I scrapped my segment. But I'm going to go back to it and refer to it again here. What is a catch in the NFL? because there's something that happened in the Buffalo game where if you go and watch the Rams game, they called it a catch, whereas in the Buffalo game, it was intercepted. So again, where is this consistency in the NFL? Because it feels like almost Buffalo got screwed out of their trip to the AFC Championship game, which could have caused their head coach to be fired the way he was today.
It depends on what the script says.
Don't. As it is, guys,
I just want some consistency. That's all I want. I just want a clear slate of what you're going to call it and some consistency across the board.
That was a tip of the hat to one of our faithful watchers, Aaron. So,
but hey, Ray, and before we dive in, I'm pretty sure I am 4-0 in the divisional round with my picks. I'm pretty sure I picked every single game correctly.
Oh, here we go.
So, just saying.
Oh, and then poor Fred went 0-4 because he picked most of my picks, and then I went 1-3 picking the Rams. So
right. See,
can't argue with.
It's okay. It's okay though. Now here's where I do kind of give myself a little bit of credit. The one game that I chose that didn't go my way was still a fight to the finish. Mm-hmm. And it could have easily gone my way for that game. So I don't regret making my pick. It's, the rest of them that I picked with Ray that
The only game that you could say was bad in divisional round weekend was what the hell happened to San Francisco? They completely disappeared off the face of the earth. What was it, 45-6? It
was like
Seattle owned them that game. Like, it was terrible.
And trust me, I will be talking about that because I have a bit of a bone to pick. But anyway, since you know what, screw it. We opened the scab. Let's just pick at that scab. First game we're going to talk about is the blowout and the shellacking that the Seattle did to the San Francisco 49ers. As we talked about kind of all season, the San Francisco 49ers just had injury upon injury upon injury, but still somehow managed to defy the odds. They ended the season at 12-5. They had a legit shot at the number 1 seed in the NFC. That didn't happen, though. But still, they get to the division round, and the game starts with Rashid Shaheed, who had been traded from the Saints over to the Seahawks, returns the opening kickoff for a touchdown, and guys, the beating was on from there.
Well, more than what, like two plays after that, that was almost a scoop and score till they rolled an incompletion. You were looking at maybe 14 seconds of gameplay of nearly a 14-0 score right off the bat. First thing that went through my head was, oh God, it's the Seattle-Denver Super Bowl all over again. That's what we're about to watch right now. Like, that's the first thing that popped into my head. It was.
Let's keep one thing in mind. Let's keep one thing in mind. We had a consensus that Seattle had been the kind of underhat powerhouse that the division didn't seem to show what they were capable of. And
you guys were, I will admit, you guys have been high on Seattle all year. I kept saying I had no faith in Seattle because of who their quarterback was. So this is where I'm eating my own words because Seattle, like you guys have said all season, I've been playing way better than I was giving them credit for.
Right.
Well, I mean, again, I haven't been high on Seattle. I've been high on Sam Darnold. There's a difference. But I think that is one thing we should discuss. And I've been thinking about it all day is how much Ray, and I hate to beat you up on this one, but Ray has been saying all year. And I remember when we had our opening season prediction podcast where Ray said Sam Darnold isn't going to do jack squat with the Seattle Seahawks. And now he has his team poised to punch their ticket to Super Bowl 61. Sam Darnold, I don't want to say that he has to play out of his mind, but he has to be a game manager. But that's not necessarily a bad thing because he has a supporting cast around him to help him succeed.
he had the supporting cast last year, and he didn't do anything. So I get where you're coming from, but at the same time, I think this is a completely different Sam Darnold than what we're used to seeing, too. Because if you look at all the prior seasons he's had and all the help he had last season, there's no reason Minnesota should have struggled in the wild card last year when they did, and they got blown out. So I was very skeptical all year, and he showed up and he proved me wrong. I have nothing else to say about that. I was completely wrong about Sam Darnold. We'll have to see what he does against the Rams, though, because that'll be when we go to our picks. But I think I might be a little more headstrong to pick Stafford over Darnold in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, go ahead, Fred. No, go ahead, Fred.
I kind of look at it where, even though, the Seahawks hadn't made headlines all season, we kind of dug in and said they secured their top spot in their division very quickly and held it. And what I honestly think that this season coming across as kind of the sleeper, they have been solid, but I don't think they necessarily had the necessity to come out guns a-blazing like they did yesterday. And I think them coming out guns a-blazing showed what they're actually capable of. We had talked about this season all along having been, we'll call it the Green Bay curse, where you get a lead and then you ride it out. And I think that may have been where Seattle was for part of the season, where, they'd get a lead and ride it out and just take the win. But I think their matchup with the 49ers, they did not even think about breaks. They came out and played the way that we love football to be played. From whistle to whistle, you're going balls to the wall, and there is no stopping. That's how Seattle played. And I think if they play that way, there's no reason, Darnold or not, like I think the pieces of the puzzle fit. And however those pieces fit and clicked, I don't think it's a fluke. I think those pieces have been there, but haven't really been unleashed to their full potential. And we saw that against the 49ers.
I do want to throw out this tidbit of news for the Seattle Seahawks as well here, because I was going through some NFL news for today to try to bring myself up to speed with everything I missed while I was working. Seahawks running back Zach Charbonnet is out for the remainder of the playoffs with a torn ACL. So they're going to be down their running back going into the NFC Championship game as well now, too. We'll have to see how big of a factor that plays in whenever they go against the Rams, and how powerful of a Rams team they're going to be up against as well. And like I told you guys the other day, the NFC is going to run through the West. I had a feeling that's what the case was going to be. I just happened to pick the wrong team from the West. I said it was going to be Niners and Rams. It's Seahawks and Rams. Either way, though, the NFC West is where our representative for the Super Bowl is coming from in that conference.
Yep. NFC West, NFC Best. Another point of news, right? I don't know if you've seen it. I certainly have. Sam Darnold hasn't thrown the football all week. He had an oblique tear. He has not thrown the football this week, so he is going to be getting some rehab.
But he still played when he wasn't throwing last week either, and he did just fine. So I don't think that's too much you got to worry about. Look what he did against the 49ers when he had the oblique injury. That's not going to play too much of a factor against the Rams unless they take him out of the game.
Well, if you think about it, how much of that game was defense and special teams?
I will look up the stats so we can kind of get a idea
because
here.
As we've seen a lot, their mediocre performance from a quarterback still doesn't mean they're not going to be dominant offensively.
Yeah.
Because if the defense is playing offense, you can still, stomp somebody out, if that makes sense.
Sam Darnold went 12 for 17, 124 yards, and threw a touchdown pass. Kenneth Walker, their running back, had 19 carries for 116 yards and 3 touchdowns himself. So I guess you could say that they didn't rely on Darnold too much, and they really relied heavy on the running game, and special teams, obviously, with the kick return to open the game, helped out a lot too.
Right.
Yeah. Now, let's not take away flowers necessarily from San Francisco. They've been banged up since pretty much the opening kickoff.
Right.
We've had guys out constantly, and they've just consistently found ways to win. I mean, they even were missing Brock Purdy and half of their starting offensive lineup there for a hot minute, and yet they still finished the season 12-5. They go into Philly, take care of Philly, but then they go into Seattle and get the brakes beat off of them. We knew it was going to catch up to them eventually. And as an Eagles fan, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little annoyed. I'm not saying that the Eagles should have done to the 49ers what the Seahawks did, but the Eagles should have been much more competitive, but the Eagles have a lot more problems. And this episode is not about the Eagles. But anyway, the Niners, we knew they were eventually going to run into a wall that they could not overcome, and this is their wall. But if you're a 49er fan, you have to be looking at next season with some optimism, because if you guys can stay even remotely healthy, you have to think that you can at least run it back and put yourself in a position to potentially compete for a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I will add, Indiana has a field goal. They're up 3-0, and we're about to end the first quarter here, kind of interrupt and kick in there. And I saw a thing that took a jab at the 49ers. I figured you guys would get a kick out of this as well. With how you were bringing up their injuries and everything, I saw a reel on Facebook today where it said the 49ers are going to spend their first-round pick on the top doctor at Johns Hopkins this year.
Nice. Yeah.
I mean, so while we're talking about 49er injuries, I've been seeing this a lot because there's one guy I follow on social media that covers the Eagles and the Niners. There's been, and I've mentioned this at least a couple times in the season, is there's this conspiracy theory about how some power substation outside of Levi Stadium in the practice facility is what's causing all these injuries. And I've just freaking had it. Like I've had it. So
that's just like saying you can blame the altitude in Denver for everybody not being able to perform all that great too. But
exactly. So
everybody still has to do it. So
right. So here is my take on that whole situation. This is Alex's final word on it because I'm done having this conversation about this stupid substation BS. If it really was all about EMF fields and all that other nonsense, then why would these players have cell phones ever near their heads? Why would they use a tablet at the games to analyze plays and look at screenshots? Why would they even be in the stadium that is covered in digital signage and screens and all that nonsense and lights and all that good happy horse crap? Come on. Like,
well, speaking of field goal posts,
I think the downside. Go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of cell phones, didn't Joe Horn and Michael Thomas both take cell phones out of the field goal post to do a touchdown celebration? I mean,
yeah. So for me, just stop it. As my wife learned this when she was in grad school, and she passed it on to me, and it's a good saying, and I find myself repeating it more and more. Correlation does not equal causation. Just
absolutely
because there doesn't mean that it's the root cause. So
now I'm going to blame it. Now I'm not going to say it is the root cause just because you said that.
One thing I've learned though is stupid needs no logic.
Yes, this is
stupid
true.
Can stand alone on its own 2 feet and adamantly fight for the quote cause without needing any logic in any way. So
yes,
both the correlation and causation argument, as well as stupid is an island all to itself. The fun never stops and the crazy never stops.
I'm going to quote a very famous person here, and I'm sure you guys are going to know this person when I say the quote. Stupid is as stupid does. So.
Absolutely.
Agreed. So now that I'm done bashing people, and I feel like really honestly with a 40 something to 6 result, there's not a whole lot to talk about.
Right.
Let's just move on. Let's move on to a game that really the whole game you didn't know who was going to win, and it came down to an interception, and it wouldn't have. I'm still thinking about this fourth and 8, just off the back foot throw that Caleb Williams threw to even put his team in a position to beat the Rams. Let's talk Bears and Rams. Guys, this was the second overtime game of the NFL Divisional Round. The Rams defeated the Bears with a field goal. But guys, Caleb Williams, I can't believe I'm about to say this phrase because this is a phrase that the kids say, and I can't believe I'm about to say it. Caleb Williams is him.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
He's got ice in his veins, and he somehow pulls out the magic when it's needed.
What did I say about my pick?
They do this every year. This is a typical Bears cycle. They are not going to do great this next year. Caleb Williams isn't even throwing 50% completion rate.
Listen.
Year. It is not going to happen again next year. The Bears are going to start their downfall next season.
Listen, the entire sport of baseball is built on people performing 30% of the time. You take a guy like Williams in the right place, the right time, with the right situations, and half of the time he performs, it can put points on the board.
That's just like saying it works 60% of the time, every time.
Well, listen, if 60% of the time he's putting points on the board, that's something. But what I argued before was this is the Bears' game to lose. They had the capability, they had the momentum, they have the guys. All they need to do is be able to create the adaptability that keeps the Rams off their toes. And as close as it ended up being, they clearly were doing that. So I'm not upset with the Bears' performance at all, even though, it makes me look like a fool for going 0-4. But I do think, I stand by it was the Bears' game to lose, and they wound up losing it.
And I think for me, like I know, and part of this is because Ray is a Packers fan, and he will never give the Bears flowers, even if they win 10 Super Bowls in a row with the same quarterback. But for me, like Caleb Williams, and the reason why I said Caleb Williams is him, he did this now 2 weeks in a row in the most high pressure situations imaginable outside of the Super Bowl.
Right.
Like 4th and 4 against the Packers, rolls out to his left and just drops it right in the bucket.
Yep.
Now, granted, he had another tight end wide open in the right flat, and we talked about that.
But
he dropped the ball right in the bucket.
He still did his job.
Right. And then against the Rams on 4th and 8, season on the line, you needed a touchdown. You just had to have it. Time running out. The offensive line breaks down. He didn't have good protection. He fell back a good 15 yards and just heaved it.
Yep.
And whenever, like to a wide open tight end. And when I saw that play, my wife will tell you, I said, holy, because it just blew my mind.
Yeah.
I've been watching the NFL ever since I was 4 years old. I have never seen that in 31 years of watching the NFL.
I will say, though, you said that I wouldn't give the Bears flowers because I'm a Packers fan. One, you might be a little bit right on that. But two, you also got to remember who is the only one that gave the Bears any credit going into the season. Because I told you both, the Bears have a cycle. They're going to be good this year. They're going to come out and surprise everybody because this is year 2 for Caleb on a brand new coach. They do this with every quarterback they draft. And sure enough, what happened?
But
so you get the flower, but you take half the flower away.
You might say that. You may have said that in the beginning of the season, but who bet more or picked more for the Bears to win this season than the other one.
Well, obviously, I'm not going to pick the Bears as a Packers
guy.
fan. I'm just saying, I
This
originally
guy.
had them predicted to do better than either of you two did. So,
But
just
hey,
saying.
Caleb
Oh
Williams'
yeah,
team
I agree with you.
to win the game. All they had to do was kick a field goal. They were driving down the field, and I think it was like a second down, and Caleb Williams just threw an interception. And it was at that point where we all three of us saw it. You saw Matt Stafford lock in and say, "Okay, I got this." And you just I know it's stupid. I'm not one to think of the dramatics of it because that's not me. But you could just see just the way he took off his jacket and just let it fall to the ground. You knew that man was going to put his team in a position to kick a field goal to win the game and send them to the NFC Championship game. Matt Stafford, for being the old guy that he is, he's still got it.
Yep.
I'm telling you both right here, just with the trend that the Bears are on, because it's what they always do. They're going to be about 500 next year. They're going to be preseason favorites. They're going to look decent. They're going to go about 500, maybe win a couple games over 500, but then they're just going to continue to dwindle down after that. You're not going to see this Bears team progress any further than where they did this year. I don't think Ben Johnson's the answer. I think it's the same old Bears. Nothing's changed.
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. But that said, again, Matt Stafford, he put his team on his shoulders. He drove them down when it mattered, made several key passes, and put his team in a position to win, and they won. Now, when he had his first possession in overtime, he could not get it done. I think that is a blueprint for other teams that are going to be playing the Rams, obviously the Seahawks, and then maybe even into the Super Bowl, that you do not want to give Matt Stafford a second chance.
No.
If you have an opportunity, you take it. Because if you give Matt a second chance, he is going to slit your throat.
He's too capable of consistency. And like Ray did allude to, the 50% performance is not Stafford. So if you're going to make a mistake, just the odds are in Stafford's favor that he's going to correct whatever mistake was made, and he's going to step up and capitalize. So, yeah, I agree with you there too.
And I think that a lot of people talk about Sean McVay as the head coach of the Rams and how much of a offensive guru he is. But I also think he's kind of got that old school guy in him. When he had his second chance, he said, "Okay, I'm freaking going for it." He was aggressive in his play calling. He was varied. They did not back down. Even when the Bears stopped them and maybe pushed them back on a 2 or 3 yard loss, Sean McVay did not get conservative. He continued, as Ray has said multiple times this year, kept his foot to the gas, and it paid off. And Ray, talking about kickers, the Rams kicker, the thicker kicker, my God, that kid can kick. And I bet you wish you had him with the Packers.
I'd be okay with a substitute teacher. So that should tell you how I feel about Green Bay's kicker right now. So let's.
Oh, I just heard breaking news. Breaking news. Green Bay is interviewing a kindergarten girl for their kicker position for next season.
Yes, still better than who we just had.
So
yes,
good luck. She's undefeated so far this year in kickball. So it's looking bright.
Give her $1 million contract. So
Ray, has your daughter been exercising her kicking leg? Because maybe she could earn a tryout.
I mean, she's been playing soccer, so I mean, anything can happen.
It could be. It could
be. All right. So the Rams, they win their game by the skin of their teeth. But now let's go over to the AFC, and let's talk about a game, the second really the first, but it was this 2 overtime games. The Bills, wow, they just narrowly lost. They narrowly lost to the Denver Broncos, but the Denver Broncos did not come unscathed, and this creates huge implications for the AFC Championship game. The Denver Broncos defeat the Buffalo Bills 33-30. Josh Allen yet again, cannot get over the divisional hump. And as I predicted last week, that if the Bills could not get past the divisional round, look for Sean McDermott to get fired. And sure enough, Sean McDermott did get fired. He is now the 10th coach to get fired. And as Ray alluded to before we went live, this now ties the NFL record for the most head coaches to be fired in one season. Wow, guys. Honestly, the Bills didn't even deserve to even go to overtime, having turned the ball over as many times as they did. But then they had an opportunity to win, and Josh Allen threw an interception that I don't even think was an interception, but that was the turning point of the entire game.
I feel like McDermott being fired was the wrong move because that was always New England's division, and look where he took Buffalo, considering where they have been for the longest time and where they are now. And just because Josh Allen had one bad postseason game, he had 6 postseason games in a row without turning the ball over once. He had one bad game plus a controversial call that lost them the game, and you fire him over that. I feel like that's a wrong fire. I think that's a bad move for Buffalo. I think they're going to end up regretting that going into next season.
What do you think, Fred?
Well, I think when in Rome, when everyone else is ditching their coaches, teams that are scrambling or upset, it seems to be the trend that, you make it as far as you can, but if you don't get that ring, we're going to fire a coach. And
it's not what you've done for me before. It's what have you done for me lately?
And honestly, I take it back to one of my favorite movies again. It doesn't matter what happens unless you finish your last game with the win. And that it doesn't. I think there's a lot of teams that jump the gun. I think there's a lot of teams that didn't give their coaches chances to develop. I think there's a lot of teams that, are not going to be better off by whatever replacements they're gonna scrounge up for next season. I think the shuffling of coaches in some cases, it's doesn't matter if they're in a green jersey or a blue jersey or a red jersey, they're still the same coach, and they still don't have the longevity that the teams think that they can squeeze out of a 1 or 2 year experienced coach with a team. You know what I mean? Like, You keep bouncing around, and like Ray always alludes to, they don't have time to actually develop their team, develop a playbook, develop a system, and work alongside a coaching staff that can actually gel. It's very hard to do if you're bouncing around. So I think it's whether or not it was necessary for the Bills to get rid of their coach, I don't know. But what I do know is there's potentially 2 more coaches losing their job this season. If the trend excuse me, if the trend continues, we got at least 1 more coach losing their job.
And so I had told Alex before you had hopped in. And I told Alex before you had hopped in, Fred, with the way everything's been playing out, all these coaches getting fired, everybody shuffling around, the inconsistency, I said to Alex, I was like, one, it baffles me to no end that the longest reigning coach in the AFC North is Zach Taylor, and the longest reigning coach in the NFC or the AFC East is oh my God,
Coach Mike Vrabel.
Mike Vrabel. I can't believe I forgot his name, but Mike Vrabel, who was hired 370 days ago.
Right.
Like there's nobody is keeping their job anymore. And which leads to my next point. I'd said to him, while post-game Packers-Bears, I was fire him. I'm done with him. Get him the hell out of there. I'm glad they didn't, because Green Bay still has some kind of consistency in their locker room now, whereas everybody else is great. We're learning everything new all over again, starting from scratch.
And like I said last week, I sure, if you feel like the guy that you have now isn't the guy, fine. But it's not like it was last year when you had all these big name coaches that are out there ready to be hired. Now, yes, you have a few, but it's not like it was last season. So if you're a team owner, a general manager that feels like you want to make a change, maybe now is not the right time. Maybe give it
I
another
feel like
year.
there's now a fleet of very overqualified college and high school gym teachers. I
To
mean,
a
there's
certain
really where are these guys going to go that have spent 1 year in the NFL or 2 years coaching, or they've bounced around to three teams and only been held by one year each? That's not desirable to anyone. So
true. Now, to
how is
play
that gonna look on your resume long term to keep a foothold where you stay in the NFL?
True. Now, to play devil's advocate, I do see where Bill's ownership is coming from. In the last 5 seasons, Sean McDermott has gotten to the divisional round and lost. And I alluded to this last week. I hate to sound like a broken record, but I did when I said, look, the last 5 seasons, you've lost two teams primarily. You've lost to the Chiefs, you've lost to the Ravens, and you lost to the Bengals once. None of them were in the playoffs this year. Now, yes, you did draw a tough draw. You did have a tough path to get to Super Bowl 61, but the two arch rivals you had in the postseason weren't there. If this was your chance if this was going to be your year, this was your
Right.
chance. So I understand from the Bills ownership that, hey, you've had 5 opportunities. This is your sixth, and you still can't get over the hump without your biggest rivals being out of the picture. I see both sides.
But at the same time, like, how many times can you say, hey, I took my team to the playoffs and we won a playoff game and I still got fired? Like, come on. He still made it. He still won the playoff game against the Jaguars, which that was a comeback game. And just, again, Josh Allen had one bad game. He is a very good quarterback who was just had an off day. Everybody has an off day. We're all human. And you're blaming the coach for the quarterback having one off day. I still feel like it was an injustice, because if Josh Allen plays like he normally does, we're looking at a Buffalo, New England AFC Championship game, and McDermott keeps his job. Plus, they get to keep their consistency. I feel like it was blamed on the wrong person, and I feel like they just judged him a little harshly than they should have. That's where my take is.
I have a question for you guys who have been avid football watchers and fans and in depth for so many years. With the trend of the short-term popcorn coaching that seems to be in play right now, do you think that there's any real longevity or predictability with teams the way it used to be in the NFL? You could say, oh, this team is a unit. They're going to be strong for the next 5 years. I personally, I don't see that as being possible anymore in the NFL.
I don't, and it's really it's a multifaceted. First of all, the NFL like that we grew up with, it's not the NFL now. It's the NFL is you got to win and you got to win now. And if you don't win now, screw you. We're going to go to the next guy. And I do think that like for coaches that want to be head coaches, and this is my second point, that the life expectancy of an NFL head coach is about as long as most typical NFL athletes are, 4 to 5 seasons. If you can't show that you can win within 4 to 5 seasons, you're out. You're gone. Now that doesn't mean you're not going to get a head coaching job again. Doesn't mean you're out of the NFL from a coaching standpoint to begin with. But if you can't win now, you're gone. And I feel like, though, that is also an indictment not just on the coaching, but on the front offices, too.
Yes.
If you're going in as a head coach thinking, to use your own analogy, Fred, if I'm going to be a popcorn coach, be a one-and-doner, do I really trust that you, Mr. and Mrs. GM, and Mr. and Mrs. Owner, are going to be going into a draft, into a free agency, trying to put the best product on the field, or are you just saying, I'm trusting you to scheme everything and your scheme is going to win the day? I don't see a whole lot of the old like Andy Reeds that are going to stay for 14 years. The Bill Cowers, the Tom Coughlin.
That point is something that that I would like to use as a segue for talking about my team's changes. So when we get there, we'll dig into that.
Now, I think there is going to still be – it's not going to be with a lot of teams in the NFL, but there is still going to be teams that keep the longevity of their coach, mainly because either of the team itself or if you start winning, we're going to keep you. I'm going to name off some coaches here that have won multiple Super Bowls, and I'm sure if you hear the name, you're going to know that they were with that team for a while here. You got Bill Belichick, Chuck Noll, Bill Walsh, Joe Gibbs, Andy Reid, all won 3 or more Super Bowls. Look how long they've been with their respective teams. But granted, they were winning. I will give you that. You have the coaches that have won 2 Super Bowls. Think about how long they were with their team with their 2 Super Bowls. Vince Lombardi, Don Shula, Tom Landry, Tom Flores with the Raiders, Jim Johnson, Mike Shanahan, Bill Parcells, Tom Coughlin. Those guys were with their teams for a while. Granted, they won 2, but they still didn't get fired. Other notable winners that have won, at least one, and stayed with their team for a long time. You got Mike Ditka, Tony Dungy, Mike Tomlin, Sean Payton, Pete Carroll, Mike McCarthy. You win 1, you have a job for a very long time, even if it is that one, because the team's going to look at it and be like, you took us to the promised land once. Get your people in. We have your back. Now, if you go a longer time, like another 5-10 years, and you don't win one, then okay, maybe you're starting to see the writing on the wall. But I still feel like there's longevity for teams in the NFL as long as you can get one game under your belt. Like Sean McVay, I think he's set in LA for a while. I don't think he's going anywhere. Right there is going to be a coach with longevity. Right now, Matt LaFleur with Green Bay, he's not going anywhere. He's going in how many years now with Green Bay on top of signing an extension. Andy Reid, he's been there for how long? He is now the longest active coach for a team in the NFL right now. So I still feel like there's teams that will keep their coaches in longevity. It's just not going to be as many teams as we're used to seeing.
Now, to not get too sidetracked, because the Bills really gave us a lot to talk about. Again, as I alluded to, the Denver Broncos did not come out of this matchup unscathed. Bo Nix broke his ankle. He's done for the rest of the playoffs. The AFC Championship game and maybe even the Super Bowl if the Broncos get that far. So now the fate of the Broncos and the Broncos rest Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham is looking to be the first backup quarterback since Nick Foles with the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles to take his team to the Super Bowl and win it. Guys, I was high on the Denver Broncos, but even now I'm getting ready to take a flyer. I don't know if I trust Jarrett Stidham to take the Broncos to the promised land. Not having Bo Nix is a huge blow, and it couldn't have come at a worse time.
I texted somebody. I don't know if it was the group chat. I don't know if it was you specifically. I just remember messaged somebody. As soon as Sean Payton came out and announced that injury, I said, whoever wins between the Patriots and Texans is going to the Super Bowl. I've already wrote Denver off. That offense revolved around Bo Nix. Granted, I know it's a team game. You can't just say one player makes a team. But he was a big part of that offense being the quarterback. I don't foresee the backup doing a whole lot that Bo Nix was doing. So I have Denver losing this week with their backup quarterback. I think New England's going back to the Super Bowl this year.
I agree. And what's unfortunate, Ray, is that Bo Nix played the entire game healthy and got injured on a kneel down. And I certainly, I was watching that game as it was wrapping up. I saw Bo Nix walking off the field, didn't think anything of it, saw the kick, turned off the game, and then I got the notification that he was hurt. So it just comes as a huge blow. And Fred, as someone that has played in very competitive environments, granted a different sport, we played in baseball, But whenever you have your main guy, like in baseball, your pitcher's your pitcher or your catcher is your main guy. Like in football, the relationship between the quarterback and the center is huge. And in baseball, the relationship between the pitcher and the catcher is huge. When one of those guys goes down, it affects every other part, every other aspect of how that team functions. And really, right now, I don't know if the Denver Broncos can overcome this.
See, I'd be curious to see how much, as a practice squad, that Bo Nix kind of stepped back to let his second string get that same system and pattern. I don't know the Broncos' practice routine or their rhythm to know, how much time he's actually had to develop the same playbook and all of that with the team to know if they're going to be able to just plug and play and do what they need to do against a very strong Patriots team.
I will give Sean Payton his flowers, if you will, as Alex is like to call it. He is a very good head coach. I feel like he will have the backup as prepared as he can for it being a backup, because I know you were saying about the second string. I feel like he will do his job at having him prepared. I just don't think he has the talent that Bo Nix had to take them to the promised land and be able to make the right reads and the right calls.
Now, to a point that I very briefly alluded to, the last time an NFL backup not only got to the championship game, got to the Super Bowl, and won it was Nick Foles with the Philadelphia Eagles back in 2017. Nick Foles is a bit of a different story. He bounced around the league. He was a starter. Jarrett Stidham is not that. He has been a career journeyman. He has been a career backup. Is there any way possible? Now, we're kind of jumping the gun here talking about the Patriots, and we'll get to the Patriots, but is there any way possible that we as a group could see that maybe, just maybe, the Denver Broncos can overcome this and at least punch it to the Super Bowl? Is there a way?
Of course.
I mean, anything's possible.
The leaning into your special teams and leaning into your running game. Because the reality is, all he needs to do with his passing game is be passably
efficient.
Yes. To make it questionable whether or not he is going to attempt and or complete a pass. If early on in the game he can get a few decent yards from a pass or from passing, then that's going to set up the Patriots to back off a little bit, to watch for the pass, and buy them ground game. If their ground game is solid and they can gain enough yards to let their special teams put the numbers on the board, I think that it's very possible for them to do a good showing in spite of being kind of a little crippled right now.
I want to check a stat real quick just off of what you just said there, Fred. So give me 1 second here.
Of course.
Yes, I am correct. You said about the Broncos leading on their rushing. Here's the slight problem with that in Denver. Their leading rusher their last game, Bo Nix.
Ooh.
29 yards. The next guy after him only had 21, and the one after him only had 20. So Bo Nix was their offense and their rushing game.
But that's the last game. I'd be curious to see the percentages of rushing to passing overall in the season, because yes, if Nix is on, of course you're gonna let him do what he does. But at the same time, if he's not on, they have to make adjustments for that. I'm sure they did throughout the season. So, like I said, if the capability is there for the defense to step up, for their running game to step up a little bit more, and obviously it's percentages. So if they're handing off the ball more, obviously they're going to get more yards rushing. So
yeah, give me 1 second. I'm looking up that ESPN stat for you right now with the team rushing stats like you wanted here. So
but
give me 1
I
second.
do
I'll
think
get that.
that is the path, is for special teams in their rushing game to be solid. If it's not, then I think the Patriots will be able to face them, not necessarily with ease, but just moving along the way that they do.
So throwing this out here for you, J.K. Dobbins, who has only played 10 games, which I'm assuming he's still injured. I don't have that information in front of me. J.K. Dobbins was their leading rusher with 772 yards. He was averaging 77 yards a game. With Dobbins out, their leading rusher is R.J. Harvey with only 540 yards and 31 yards a game. Bo Nix has 20. So that's only an 11-yard difference. So really, there is no rushing game in Denver right now. It's running that offense and occasionally catching a team off guard. So it's going to be a reach for them to really get the rushing game going,
now,
especially the backup quarterback. I don't know if they're going to.
The question is, will the coaches see that and say, we need to adjust our game to a running game because that's what we have, that's the parts we have now, or are they going to still try and lean on the passing game, do the same system they did when they had their strength, and, fingers crossed, hope for the best?
If I was Vrabel going into this next game, I would be playing a lot of run defense and saying, you're going to beat me with your backup quarterback. I want to see him do it.
So my answer to that would be this. If I was Sean Payton and I were the Broncos, yes, I'm going to be expecting a run-heavy defensive front, but I'm going to counter that by saying I'm going to run a heavy line. I'm going to run 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends. I'm going to make you think I'm running the ball, and I'm going to run the ball a little bit early, but then I'm going to run some tight end outs. I'm going to run some tight end screens. I'm going to get you to bite in, and I'm going to get it to my tight ends. Because, look, if I have a backup quarterback, not that I don't trust my backup quarterback, but I can't count that my backup quarterback is going to produce like my starting quarterback, be able to reliably produce medium to long range balls. Yeah. I'm going to go to checkdowns. I'm going to go to short screens. I'm going to get my tight ends involved, because if you don't have your starting quarterback that's your guy, I know everybody keeps saying run game, run game, run game. I think the key for the Broncos, if they want to even have a chance against the Patriots, is not the running back, is not the quarterback, not the wide receiver. It's the tight end position. If they want to even have a chance, they got to get their tight ends involved.
So you're counting on little pop-up 5-yard passes and making ground that way.
To quote John Gruden in the quarterback camp videos, I'm running Spider 2 Y Banana until the Patriots prove to me they can stop it.
If Vrabel blitzes him early, a backup quarterback in this kind of an atmosphere, it's an AFC championship game, there's already pressure on the line. If you hit him early and hit him often, he's not going to want to make those passes because he's going to be trying to just catch the ball and throw it as fast as he can so he doesn't get hit, which leads to some inconsistency, which could also lead to, you're trying to get that dump off, but you can either throw a backwards pass or you could just miss your mark and throw it to a guy who's ready for that screen pass too.
And that could open up for interceptions as well.
So I'm looking at it as, you can run those dink and dunks, but if we hit you early and often enough, you're not going to want to hang on to that ball enough to make those throws.
You could, but
I'm just playing devil's advocate as far as the Patriots go with what you're saying.
I understand, but again, that's where I'm coming from. Looking at it from the offensive side, is I'm going to run those tight end heavy packages. I'm going to make every single play from a formation standpoint look the same. And I'm going to, sure, you want to come up and hit me, fine. But then after a while, I'm just going to start dumping into my tight ends, because if you're focused on me as a quarterback, that means you're ignoring my tight ends. I'm going to work in my tight ends, because if you're ignoring me as a thrower, you're focusing on me as a thrower, rather, you're ignoring my tight ends. And the tight end, again, and so far I've been right so far in the playoffs. Who knows? I might be wrong, but I think if the Broncos want to have a fighting chance, it's going to rely on their tight ends.
And again, this is also, I know I keep emphasizing the devil's advocate with you. This is also a Mike Vrabel defense that just had 4 interceptions and how many fumble recoveries against the Texans defense that was sure enough, everybody was like, they're going to shut down Drake May. I was saying they were going to shut down Drake May, but the Patriots defense is proving that, hey, you want to shut us down, we'll do the same thing right back to you. Our defense is just as good as anybody else out here right now.
Right.
Not to mention you're going against a backup quarterback, not a starting quarterback. So you're facing a team where it's like, okay, they just intercepted this starting quarterback 4 times. He's fumbled how many times? And I got to compete with that. That's, again, added pressure in a championship atmosphere. You get hit a couple times, you're going to get rattled. That's where my mind's at with New England. We're going to hit him early. We're going to rattle him more than he already is. And, yeah, he might be in his home stadium, but this isn't going to be a home welcome for him whenever we get up there.
And, again, what a great segue. Yeah. Now let's talk about the Patriots since we're already talking about their defense because we're assuming the Patriots is just going to walk all over them. The Patriots, they did punch their ticket to the AFC Championship game. They defeated the Texans. And, Ray, you texted me. I didn't even pay attention to the game because I figured that the Patriots would take care of the Texans, and they did. But you texted me and said, man, the Texans and the Patriots, man, they're making me look like a fool when it comes to C.J. Stroud. And C.J. Stroud did not look good.
I had made the comment that it was hard to support the Texans with the way C.J. Stroud was playing. Because how can you go into a game and he's had – correct me if I'm wrong, he had 5 turnovers against the Steelers and another 5+ here against the Patriots. So you have a quarterback in 2 games committing 10+ turnovers. It is really hard to support a team and a quarterback whenever you're making those kind of mistakes in big games every single time. And DeMeco Ryans had gone out and said, I still have faith in him as a quarterback, which obviously you want your coach to do. You want to have faith in your starting guy moving into the next season, give him a little bump up. But at the same time, I saw another post coming up where it's like Ohio State quarterbacks just aren't it. And he is another Ohio State guy. Maybe it's finally coming out that he had a really good rookie year, which kudos to him. You started off, but you're falling apart now. There's nothing left.
I honestly, the more as you were talking about that, I think CJ Stroud has 1, maybe 2 more years left. And then he might be looking at getting ousted, and he just might be the next backup quarterback for the rest of his career. I don't know if C.J. Stroud really has it. I know you've been riding high on him. I've been a little bit more hesitant to get on the C.J. Stroud bandwagon. I got to see more from him, and the way that he played the last 2 games, I just can't count on him.
That at this point, as much as I know you say I ride the Texans pretty hard, but as much as I am high on Houston and their defense, Stroud's is holding them back at this point. He, in my opinion, is the reason they're not in the AFC Championship game. And to take it a step further, because of what happened to Denver, the reason they're not going to the Super Bowl this year. If they just had somebody who wouldn't turn the ball over, you're looking at a blowout in Pittsburgh on top of a completely different game in New England, possibly an even closer game, if not pulling out a W. I hate to put the blame on one person, but at the same time, 10 turnovers in 2 games, the writing's on the wall.
Yeah. I mean, now, Fred, obviously baseball is a little bit different. I'm trying to find some parallels here. Now, obviously in baseball, you don't have those turnover plays, but when you have a leader or a guy that's in a leadership position on your roster who, as Ray alluded to, is potentially holding the team back, that means everybody else has to pull up extra weight. Everybody else has to do more. And going into next season, I don't really know what else the Texans need to do. I mean, sure, they could shore up the offensive line for C.J. Stroud, maybe give him another running back, maybe give him another wide receiver. But at some point in time, the Texans have to look at C.J. Stroud and say, look, you either got to put up or you got to shut up. Oh, Fred, I don't know. Are you still muted there, buddy? I can't hear you.
Are we good?
Yep.
All right. Yep. What I look at is probably perfect example would be you take my Yankees and the top home run hitter in postseason for the Yankees is not A-Rod. It's not Judge. It's, well, who do you think it was?
Well, I'm not a baseball guy, so I'll trust what you tell me.
Derek Jeter has
That makes
more
sense.
postseason home runs than any other Yankee. So you look at a guy who his performance was consistent, his performance was reliable, and that reliability all season long is what carried him through. A-Rod, Judge, they were always able to produce throughout the season, but when it comes to the postseason, yes, they might be able to produce some RBIs, get some runs on the board, but as far as the dominance in clearing the bases and counting on that for the postseason throughout their careers, you haven't been able to do that. And so looking at how that translates to football, when you have guys that you expect to produce, you expect to gel, and when they're not, the rest of the system seems to struggle. And the weight ends up going on guys that haven't needed to support that weight before. So oftentimes what ends up happening is if those guys have not been in those pressure situations, because let's say the ball has always gone to the left side on that play, so I can kind of skate through knowing that, yeah, I'm going to defend, but it's not crucial. Where when that system breaks and they end up having to go to the other side consistently and they have to be the guy, are they capable of doing that and upholding that as their piece of the puzzle? And I would say there's a lot of guys that would fall into the category of maybe, but can you count on it all the time? Maybe not.
Right. And I think that, CJ Stroud is this interesting case, but you can't discount, in my mind, truly how well the Patriots defense played. And it makes this little old Eagles heart in me so happy to see Milton Williams, as much as I'd love him to have him in midnight green and that eagle on his helmet. He went over to the Patriots, and I thought, I don't know if this is going to work out, but boy, Milton Williams, he has been having himself one hell of a post game. He has just been on a tear, and I honestly think that the interior of that Patriots defensive line is honestly what has been carrying them so far in this postseason, and what could carry them on to what could potentially be an NFL record 7 Super Bowls for a single franchise. Guys, we were talking, Ray, you were talking about how if the Patriots can put pressure on Jarrett Stidham, that's gonna rattle them. So how do you feel about if you were the head coach, if you were Mike Vrabel, if you sat down with Milton Williams, what would you be telling Milton Williams as a D tackle and any of the other D tackles on that Patriots roster? What would you be telling them going into this game against the Broncos?
It's like I said earlier, I feel like I'm beating a broken record. It's get in there and put a hand on him. Any way you can get a hand on him, get a hand on him. He fakes a handoff, at least shove him. Don't knock him to the ground and cause a penalty, but at least give him a shove. Let him know you're there. Let him feel your presence. We want him to know that this isn't going to be a quiet game for him. We're here, and you're going to know it all game.
And Milton Williams and that honestly, the entire defensive line for the Patriots have done that. I don't know how much more we can say about the Patriots up against the Texans. They took care of business. They did their job. I mean, to quote Bill Belichick of old, do your job. They did their job.
Yeah.
I don't know how much else we can say about that.
Yeah.
So did we cover all 4 of the games here?
We covered the games.
Okay. Before we go into the head coaching carousel, let's do our predictions for conference championship weekend. And then what do you guys say about an Uncle UFO ad?
Sounds good to me.
Also, 10-0 halftime. Indiana's up.
I picked that one.
Who's your daddy?
I picked that one.
Hoosiers. Hoosiers.
Blech. Anyway, so let's make our picks, guys. AFC Championship game: the Denver Broncos against the Patriots. I think I'll go first. I know you guys all know I've been riding high on the Denver Broncos. I've been riding that stallion, but as much as it pains me, I gotta flip my allegiances. I'm going with the Patriots. The Patriots are going to be punching their ticket to Super Bowl 61.
Fred,
Okay, I got to make my pick before Ray. That way, it's not me copying Ray. So, yeah, you can just sit back in your tall back chair and know that I'm not copying
sir.
you. Okay,
Listen,
so
sir.
here we go. I am picking also the Patriots, and my reason for that is I do not think that the Broncos have, because of the way that their system is, I do not think that their backup quarterback has truly had the capability to gel and to get the confidence that he needs in order to step in a playoff game and beat or to stand toe-to-toe against the strength of the New England Patriots with all the momentum in the world on their side and the experience, the defense that they have. I don't see it happening. So yes, I'm Patriots.
So
Ray?
it's a matter of, do I want to unanimously agree and go with my gut, or do I want to go against my
you want to be wrong?
pick differently than everybody?
You just want to be
you can pick with us or you can be wrong.
Well,
we
if
already
you
expect
guys
you to
with
be
my
wrong.
track record, if I pick with you guys with my track record, all three of us could be wrong then.
Not true. We picked first.
We picked first, right? So it negates that.
Oh,
we have a system, Ray. We have a system.
Okay. I'm picking first the next game then, just throwing that out there.
Oh, crap.
I'm taking New England as well. I like I said before, I don't think that they have a chance, or Denver has a chance. I think it's all New England. So
all right.
So now the NFC Championship game, we have the Rams visiting the Seahawks. Guys, this is going to be an NFC West showdown. This is the second year in a row now. Excuse me. This is the second year in a row now that two teams from the same division are meeting in the NFC Championship game, fighting for the right to go to the NFL Championship, the Super Bowl. Last season, it was the Eagles and the Commanders. Guys, who's it going to be this year? Ray, I think you said you wanted to go first, so why don't you go first?
Yes, I do, because I have a feeling you two are going to pick opposite of me anyway. So we talked about Seattle, how explosive their offense was. They didn't rely heavy on Darnold, which we went back and looked at the stats to confirm that. Like Fred had said, they relied on a lot of their rushing and special teams. And they're playing a lot of good football this year. I'm eating a lot of my words. I was down on Seattle this year, and they're showing up and they're playing great. But you have to look at how great the Rams have been as well. They have the number one offense. Stafford's having another MVP season. You have Puka Nacua. You have Devontae Adams. You have all sorts of weapons on the offense, and they haven't really slowed down much at all this year. While I believe Seattle is 2-0 against the Rams, I feel like the Rams finally get their win against Seattle this year and go 1-2, granted against Seattle, but that one is what gets them to the Super Bowl. I have a feeling it's going to be Rams New England in the Super Bowl this year.
So it's going to be a Super Bowl 53 rematch, huh? Interesting.
So here's where you two pick Seattle because I picked the Rams. This is what I'm waiting for.
Not to steal Alex's thunder, but boy, howdy, am I going to be happy when you're wrong.
Boy, howdy.
So here's my frozen take on the Seahawks-Rams game. I think that Seattle showed us against the 49ers that they're here to play. And it's not, they've turned off the score and glide. They're not, laying off. They're coming guns a-blazing, and they're going to steamroll into the Super Bowl. I think that, yes, the Rams have pieces. They have a good, solid team. But I think the Seahawks have that edge to where as long as they can maintain the running game, and I think they also need to do what we talked about with Green Bay was the adaptability. If the Rams change their game, the Seahawks need to do the same. And I really think there needs to be some fluidity in that game. If either team sticks with one play program from first quarter to fourth quarter, they're going to be the loser.
So you're taking the Seahawks, and man, I'm also taking the Seahawks. Look.
Oh, wow. Who saw that coming?
Look, I think the Seahawks are just a better football team. Yes, the Rams have a good offense. They have a good defense, but I think the Seahawks defense matches up very, very well and favorably versus the Rams offense and vice versa. They don't need to rely so much on Sam Darnold. They are multifaceted. They can win in multiple ways, whereas the Rams, it flows through Matt Stafford. If Matt Stafford has an off game, the Rams have an off game. And we've seen that several times this season. Anytime the Rams have played Seattle, which has proven to be the best team in the NFC, they have lost in rather embarrassing fashion. We all remember the last matchup with the Rams where the Seahawks had that bounce off the helmet and just so happened to be a touchdown. I don't see the Seahawks having a repeat of that game. I think they're going to play a more complete game. I see this being a Seahawks win, and I see this being a Seahawks and Patriots rematch from Super Bowl bygone era when Russell Wilson and Tom Brady were in the Super Bowl. And we'll talk about that in our next episode. But I think it's going to be the Seahawks and the Patriots going to Super Bowl 61.
And if you think about it, it's only right because we had a coast-to-coast MLB season, and we're about to have a coast-to-coast NFL Super Bowl. It's only fitting.
Unless Denver somehow pulls it out and wins it.
Unless Denver somehow pulls it out, but I don't think
that would mean Ray is right, and we don't even.
I picked the same team you guys did.
You picked last. I'll give you that. You picked last.
Oh, I picked last. I hope that we have different Super Bowl picks because I would love to bet you guys on the Super Bowl, and that would be the one time I'm right, and I'm going to enjoy every bit of it.
Well, but we are going to be going to the casino here at the end of the week, so we'll see. But anyway, guys,
UFO.
All right, let's
have for us
let's
this
have
time.
A little Uncle UFO break before we transition here.
Uncle UFO's Old Grey Whiskey. Now that's a name that tickles the tongue. A stellar ale, brewed for those who dare to dream and drink. This ain't your average hooch. It's got a kick like a mule and a flavor that'll make you howl. Pour it in a glass and watch it shimmer like the night sky. Who knew whiskey could be so pretty? But hold on, does it taste as good as it looks? One sip, and I'm ready to launch into orbit. It's smooth, with a hint of mischief so you can embrace your natural instincts, like a man. So if you're looking for a drink to help you embrace the rugged and experience the impossible, Uncle UFO's got your back. Grab a bottle of Uncle UFO's Old Grey Whiskey, and let's toast to the cosmos.
All
to the Cosmos.
right.
So
All
before
right.
we dive into our head coaching segment, I started doing a game with you guys every week, and I'm going to get that game out of the way before we run into a little bit of time here for you again.
All right.
Are you guys cool with that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So this game that I have for you guys goes back to 2007. That'll give you the time and setting of it right here.
Okay.
So Team A, you have your quarterback who was 29 for 50, 2 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Team B, their quarterback went 23 for 31, 176 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Team A had 6 turnovers, 24 first downs, though, that 9 for 15 on third down, but they only had 27 minutes of possession. Team B only had 229 yards total, only turned the ball over once, which was that quarterback's 1 interception, 14 first downs, 3 for 13 on third down, but had the ball for 33 minutes. Which team are you taking? Who won that game?
You know, this again feels like last week where it was a catch-22. I'm going with the team with the most turnovers. Team A.
I'm going with Team B this time because I don't think Ray would do the same trope.
I will throw this out here. Team A was 5-0. Team B was 1-4 when this game was played.
Definitely Team B.
The answer is this was the Tony Romo 5-interception Monday Night Football game against the Bills, where the Cowboys won the game 25-24 on a last-second touchdown pass by Tony Romo.
I'm right again. Call me Mr. Because I'm always right.
Man.
I'm always right.
But you are right, Fred. I am going to throw you guys off at one of these points. It's just a matter of when you're going to catch on to it and if you're going to matter figure it out.
I don't know.
But yes, that was the classic Tony Romo 5-interception game where you're thinking there's no way they're going to win this, and he somehow still pulled off the win.
Right.
Which, how fitting that I bring this game up when Sean McDermott gets fired, and they ended up losing that game too. But anyway, moving on.
So, as we alluded to earlier in the pod, and we'll make this quick because we don't want to make this pod too long.
Yeah.
We have had a bit of a movement on the coaching carousel. As we mentioned, Sean McDermott was fired from the Bills, but the very first team that fired their coach now has their new head coach, and that is Fred's New York Football Giants. They have their $100 million man in John Harbaugh. And in pre-production, Fred, you didn't sound as excited as you were a couple weeks ago. What gives?
Well,
he didn't want
here's
Harbaugh,
the thing.
I'd have thought a couple weeks ago. I think he
I
wanted somebody else.
I wasn't sold on him in the current structure a few weeks ago. The current structure being he had conversations with the former head coach. He had conversations with Eli Manning about being skeptical of the upper management structure. And as that wound up panning out, that is what caused him to hold out. He had to see whether or not the ownership was going to kind of put pressure on the upper management to agree in order for him to go there. And that is exactly what wound up happening. The new structure is definitely different than what the Giants have been used to. And Joe Schoen is now directly reporting to ownership alongside of Harbaugh. So Harbaugh is reporting directly to ownership, no longer directly reporting to Schoen, and then Schoen goes to ownership. So he's no longer going through a middleman. He actually gets to have his say and do what he needs to do. He also go ahead.
Briefly interrupt you, Fred, because I know you and I had talked about this last week. Do you feel like this could potentially spell the end for Joe Shane in New York because of the blunders from the past 2 seasons of letting free agents go, like Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones? Do you think this could potentially spell the end for him?
I don't necessarily see it as being the end right now. I would see it as if the system that Harbaugh is planning on putting in place, meaning Harbaugh has some coaching structure that is probably going to be moving with him. He also has the potential for a couple of players that would be free agents that are willing and ready to move with him as well. So if that structure becomes the backbone to what his system works with, and almost sheds more light on the flawed system that was Joe Schoen being the shot caller all this time. Obviously, the previous head coach had issue with it. Obviously, Eli Manning felt that it was a big enough deal that he needed to have a talk about it. Harbaugh also sat down with Jackson Dart, and I believe that was a conversation also alluding to structure, assuring Dart that he was going to put the pieces in play to allow Dart to flourish, not to stifle the capabilities, and to kind of settle him a bit that he wants him to be the franchise quarterback for the Giants. So I think that that Joe could be on his way out, but I don't think it's going to happen until Harbaugh's puzzle pieces show their value.
So let me ask another question, since we're really kind of dissecting John Harbaugh's hire. Now, I saw today Malik Neighbors. He is starting to rehab, but he's looking pretty stiff in his knee. Guys in his position normally have full range of motion. He does not have full range of motion. There is a possibility that he'll be on the physically unable to perform list to start the year and could be out of commission for the first 4 weeks. So that said, you still have 2 guys to really build around. You got Jackson Dart and oh my God, I always forget the
good old Cam Scatteraboo.
Cam Scatteraboo. My goodness, I need to get better at this. So you got Cam Scatteraboo. How do you think Jim Harbaugh complements what the Giants already have? But how do you see potentially John Harbaugh putting the Giants more into the echelon of being in the conversation with the Eagles and with the Cowboys?
Two of the names that have been dropped that I forget, I remember the positions. 2 positions that are potentially going to be coming along with Harbaugh that are free agents. One is a wide receiver, which would absolutely help give some balance there.
You're also getting the offensive coordinator from Baltimore too, if you remember, because he said he was following Harbaugh as well.
Yes. So the offensive coordinator would offer a lot of value there. I think, like I said, the wide receiver, and then I believe it is a another offensive lineman that is also free agent that is planning on moving with Harbaugh. So if those pieces and upper management at the Giants agree to those moves, I think plugging in a few guys that already know Harbaugh's style and are capable of supporting the offense there, I think there's absolutely some great potential. Also, I think there are other guys that are going to be free agents in the NFL that we haven't seen or discussed yet that would be very willing to join an already fairly solid defense to fill the safety positions to also kind of round out the defense there. So I think Harbaugh and those who the potential to play for him has drawn is definitely a positive thing. But I think the most positive change that this is bringing to the Giants is the power structure changing from a GM managed team to a coach being able to coach and manage his players in the way that he sees fit. And I think that's a move that the Giants have been desperately needing. I think it has nothing but potential upside.
Now, I just want to throw something out here too, Fred, because I will say my most recent ex, I should say, was a big Giants fan, as you know, and I had followed a little bit of the Giants, obviously, just through her. And there's one name that nobody ever really talked about. I want to see how you feel about this guy. I always thought he was a lot better than what a lot of people gave him credit for. Isaiah Hodgins. I always thought he was an excellent wide receiver for the Giants,
Yes.
a really underrated wide receiver. Nobody gave him credit that he was due for the talent that he has. I feel like if they can get the ball rolling with Dart and Harbaugh, that granted, Malik Neighbors is obviously your number one, but Hodges could easily slide in as that underrated guy where they're like, where did this guy come from? Where has he been all these years?
Well, the other thing to remember is Neighbors may or may not start off the beginning of the season, which would give Hodges and the guy I can't remember from the Ravens who's free agent, if the two of them can fill the wide receiver holes, then all you're doing is creating depth by having the injuries healed and the offense having more options.
The wide receiver free agents that Baltimore is looking at this year: Nelson Aguilar, Deontay Hardy, and DeAndre Hopkins are their three free agent wide receivers this year in Baltimore.
Okay, so there might be potential for more than one to join the Giants.
If DeAndre Hopkins joined the Giants, oh my God, that
well,
would be bad.
I don't think there's anything that we can count out at this point.
Yeah.
Because the other thing to remember is, yes, the Giants gave up their first round pick, their second round pick, their third round pick. But
I'm sensing a trend here.
But I think what they gained, though, is Harbaugh being able to bring pieces with him that they would not have gotten from the draft. Also, Harbaugh still being able to have a fourth-round draft pick to be able to make another hole filled, so to speak, as well as having his offensive coordinator there with him, and then having the freedom to create the team the way he wants it created. It's sort of a dream job situation for any NFL coach to be essentially by ownership. They're so willing to let him do what he needs to do to make the team that he wants, that they're willing to take their GM, who they've trusted with leading the team all this time, and having him kind of ride side saddle and give up some of that power and control that he had all this time. So I think really, yes, I had apprehension, but seeing some of the pieces that are in play, I don't see there being anything but upside, especially since, one more point before I hand it over to you guys, one of my apprehensions with Harbaugh was the fact that in 18 years, he had one Super Bowl with a team he inherited. He was able to take those pieces and make them work to get a championship. But it makes me wonder if he was ever allowed to create that again. And I think right now he has the opportunity to create that with the Giants with a young team who's capable of making that a longer term capability.
Interesting stuff out in New York, and there's a lot to see coming out of New York here in the offseason. Now, there was another move that affected one of our teams, and this has Ray a little hot under the collar. Ray, why don't you bring us up to speed and tell us how you already – we already talked last week about how you Packers were sitting pretty, and all of a sudden the Packers are not sitting pretty. Please.
I don't want to.
Well, you're on the hook now, buddy.
So I got it literally just broke right as we were about to get on, because I'm pretty sure you guys got the message from me, like 15, 20 minutes before we were about to do this. I spent all last week on our podcast hyping up about how Green Bay's defense is great. I support our defense where it was at. I loved our D coordinator. I think we're going to be fine on defense. Just for right before we start today to hear Jeff Hadley got a head coaching job in Miami, which kudos to him. I'm proud of him. I think he did great in Green Bay. He had a very successful year as their coordinator because he brought them into being a top 5 defense his first year in Green Bay, and they were top 10 again this year. So he is a very great coach. I wish him the best of luck in Miami. But that leaves Green Bay scrambling as, okay, what's our next move? Because you just went from having your guy D coordinator to where do we go from here? Because you just brought Matt LaFleur back. You don't know what's going on with your offense and why your defense was set. And now you picture Talladega Nights where Ricky Bobby finally got his first big race win. And he's just like, I don't know what to do with my hands right now. And he's just sitting there with his hands on the screen. Like, I don't know. What to do.
Call me crazy, but you would think that there's a lot of former head coaches that might have a little bit of an edge on defense that could slide right into a defensive coordinator job with Green Bay and have the opportunity to shine.
So I read an article today of a very good Green Bay reporter. He covers Green Bay, a lot of everything here. The list of candidates for this job right now for Green Bay's defensive coordinator position: Bobby Babich from the Buffalo Bills, Zach Orr from the Baltimore Ravens, Denard Wilson from the Tennessee Titans, Brian Flores from Minnesota, which I would love if we could get him. I do not foresee him coming to Green Bay, but he is officially a candidate for the Green Bay job. And there's one more on here where if he gets this job, I'm about to lose my freaking mind. Matt Eberflus.
Good old Matt Eberflus.
If we get Matt Eberflus as our defensive coordinator, I probably won't watch a game next year. I'm just throwing that out.
He's like the Mo, Larry, and Curly of the NFL.
But as far as defensive powerhouses go, if we were to pull off somebody from Buffalo or Baltimore, I would be content with that. I'd love to have Brian Flores, but I feel like that is way too much of a reach considering he's getting head coaching offers and he's already had another defensive coordinator interview. So as far as what Green Bay goes from here, we'll have to, I guess ultimately we're going to have to wait and see, because we also got to see how much of the defensive staff Hafley's going to take with him down to Miami as well. So ultimately we're sitting here waiting to see what happens with Hafley and Miami, and we're going to have to go from there.
And the other question was, how many free agents on the Green Bay defense might go along with them?
Good question. I will look that up for you. While I'm looking that up, Arita, do you want to go into the only other coach that has been hired so far?
The only other coach that has been hired so far. Refresh my memory, please, because I'm in a bit of a fog. Atlanta. Yes, Atlanta makes a head coach hire. They hire Kevin Stefanski as their head coach, so that eliminates him from a lot of offensive coordinator talks, including the Philadelphia Eagles.
He was the other consideration for the Giants. If the Giants did not get Harbaugh, they wanted Stefanski. So now that's why as soon as Harbaugh was nailed down, Atlanta jumped the gun and did what they needed to do to get Stefanski.
And I think that Stefanski, and you guys heard me say this last week, I think Stefanski is a great coordinator. I don't think he's a good head coach. And I think the Falcons are going to find that out, unfortunately, pretty quickly. He's a good offensive-minded guy, but when it comes to being the top dog of the organization, he has a sub-500 record. I think I saw he has like a 46-54 overall record as a head coach, so that's not exactly inspiring. I don't really see the roster in Atlanta being anything to really brag about. I mean, that's going to be an organization that's really going to be in upheaval.
The Raiders, that record would be awe-inspiring.
What did you say you thought his record was?
46-54, something like that.
You were actually pretty close. He has a 45-56 overall regular season record with a 1-2 postseason record.
Yeah. So I was
he has also, however, won 2 Coach of the Year awards back in 2020 and 2023.
So I was one game off?
You were, like I said, you were close. I wasn't trying to say you were way off.
Were all the other coaches sick that year? Like what?
Pretty much.
How did
it was
You got to give him some credit with what he did with Cleveland. The only thing I think he did wrong, which I don't even think this was his fault, is side note, Miami just broke off a 70-yard touchdown run. We now have a 10-7 football game, and Miami has finally put points on the board.
Well, in the national championship, we shall see what happens.
Yes. But you have to give him credit. I think the only mistake Cleveland really did was they let Baker Mayfield go. I think if they would have kept a hold of him, he would have taken them to the promised land at some point. But I have a feeling that was more ownership than it was Stefanski. So,
yeah, well, we'll see. But so far, 2 head coaching hires. There's a lot more to be nailed down. 3 head coaches that have now
3 down, 7 to go.
Oh, well, maybe more than that.
Yeah, that is true because we thought we were done. Then Buffalo fired their coach. So I mean, anything can happen.
The question is, will either one of the next 2 losers end up losing their head coach or some portion of their coaching staff? The trend says one of the 2 is losing a coach.
I don't foresee that because you look at the AFC with Sean Payton, you just lost your star quarterback that took you to the promised land. If you lose, they could look at it as, you got us how far? You lost your quarterback. We'll give you another year. Whereas with New England, they just got Vrabel. Look at the turnaround they had. They went from a 4-win team last year to now you have 14 wins in the regular season, and you're about to possibly go to the Super Bowl. I don't see any of the team from the AFC getting fired. I don't see Sean McVay getting fired from the Rams. And the Seahawks, I think this is his first or second year as a coach. And look what they've done in Seattle. I think we're done as far as teams in the playoffs still being fired. But again, like you said, Fred, anything can happen.
Yeah. The only thing I could see happening is maybe some coordinators moving around or taking some interviews. But I mean, that comes to the territory when you get to this point.
Speaking of coordinators moving around, I'm glad you brought that up. Here's some big news for you that you might find interesting. Chiefs are planning to bring back longtime assistant coach Eric Bieniemy back to Kansas City as their offensive coordinator, getting him out of Chicago.
Interesting. I don't know. They were kind of looking forward to. I mean, back when they let Bieniemy go to Chicago, they seemed pretty willing to be rid of him. I see this more as an attempt to kind of bring back the Chiefs of old, prior to Super Bowl 59. I don't see this being really a smart hire by the Chiefs, but we'll see. It's not really a hiring for me that really inspires a whole lot of confidence.
There's 2 more coaching updates I'm going to give you that's on the NFL website for today. And then if you guys want to get ready to wrap up, we can get ready to wrap up. Lions are hiring former Cardinals offensive coordinator Drew Petzing as their new offensive coordinator. Very questionable hire, for my opinion, being the Cardinals offensive coordinator. I don't see what they're looking at in there unless it's just somebody for Dan Campbell to play into his system. That doesn't make sense to me.
It's probably a schematic fit would be my guess.
Just the way the Cardinals were the worst team in the West this year. They have no offense. They didn't really move the ball. They haven't done anything with Kyler Murray, and you bring in the OC that had that. I don't see that as a good hire by the Lions. In the other news, Chargers are interviewing Arthur Smith for their open offensive coordinator position.
Questionable. They can have him.
Yeah, I don't foresee that. Arthur Smith never did great down in Atlanta with the offensive power he had down there. He obviously didn't do great with Pittsburgh as their offensive coordinator this year. I don't understand why teams are still looking into him as a possible coaching candidate. Just like Matt Eberflus, I don't want anything to do with Arthur Smith either if I was an NFL GM.
No, I think right now teams are maybe getting a little antsy. Again, the only thing I can think is that maybe they think it's a schematic fit. That's really the only thing that I can think.
There's a lot of coaches to where I'm actually going to jump on what Fred said a couple podcasts ago, and I think he might have even touched on it a little bit here today too. We're getting to the point where you know who's not a good coach and you know who is a good coach. So why are we recycling the same coaches over and over again? Mm-hmm. I know whenever the coach was still open for the Giants before it was the whole Harbaugh gate thing, he even said himself, give me a college coach, bring him in, give him a chance. I want new blood. Why aren't a lot of these teams doing that? Granted, I'm going to go back to Green Bay here, but Jeff Hafley, where did we get him from? He was the head coach of Boston College before we brought him in as our defensive coordinator. He did one of the best jobs we could have asked for in Green Bay. I've said the past 2 years, oh my God, I'm not used to this. Green Bay has a defense. This is ridiculous. Well,
here's a question though. Here's a question. If, let's say, Ray, you are a college coach, right? And given the current climate of the NFL, let's say you've been a head coach in college for 4 years now, and some NFL team calls you up to give you a shot. The money is not that much more than what you're making in college. Do you come to the big show knowing that the turnover rate right now is 1 to 2 years with a team, and then you might not have anything? Or do you ride it out as the college head coach, and do you continue with a legacy in college?
Here's where I'm at.
It's a hard call.
Here's where I'm at with that, though, because you said about the state of the NFL with the coaching turnover rate, but you also have to look at the state of what college football has also become now, too, because this isn't the college football of old that all three of us grew up with, where when you went to a college, you stayed with that college your full 4 years, and then you graduated, and then maybe if you wanted to transfer, maybe something happened within the school, you needed out of there, you got out of there, you transferred, but that was very rare. You're looking at the state of college football to where everybody can transfer. James Madison, for example, one of the colleges right here, they're looking at 27 people, 27 other starters from this season in the transfer portal right now. 2 years ago, Marshall University, whenever their head coach left right before their bowl game, their whole entire starting roster left to go to the transfer portal. They couldn't even play in the bowl game that Marshall was in because they didn't have enough people to field a team. It's the state of college football is worse, in my opinion, than it is in the NFL, because not only can you change around in coaches and your lifespan be short, but same with your roster. You don't know who you're going to have next year. You don't know who you're going to have as a starter, let alone a backup as that, let alone you cannot scheme anymore because you don't have guys staying with your team to actually put in a scheme. Whereas if you got that egg coaching spot, it's okay. We might be shuffling a couple of free agents around, but I know who my core guys are.
Yep.
So what you're saying is there is no I in team unless you're a college football player.
Pretty much.
Essentially where the college football is, because it's officially you can get paid to play college football now, and we're going to follow the money, and we're going to go with whatever team pays us the most.
So do you think, in retrospect, do you think that the college trend is rubbing off on the NFL?
I think as far as it goes, as far as like a coaching player perspective, it is better to be a player in college football right now, and it is better to be a head coach in the NFL. Yep. Because you're going to have a chance to put in your scheme. If you get a call from an NFL team as a college head coach, I'd be more inclined to take it in a heartbeat if it was a coordinator position, because that's a chance for you to get your feet wet, give yourself a chance to prove yourself, and then maybe after a couple seasons, like example Halfley again, I keep going back to him, but again, 2 years with Green Bay, he now has his first head coaching job. He came in, proved what he was worth, got the job done. Now, just going from college to head coach, there's a couple teams, or a couple, Nick Saban, for example, just throwing that name out there. Very excellent college coach. I'm pretty sure he's going to be in the College Hall of Fame. Built Alabama into the powerhouse they are. Absolute terrible head coach when he was Miami. I'm pretty sure he had a losing record the only time he ever had that chance. Right. So while I think you have a better shot in the NFL, I wouldn't go guns blazing for a head coaching position. I'd be looking for fresh blood as a coordinator. Keep your head coach for a little while, like we were just talking about longevity of a head coach. And then maybe you look at that head coaching tree like Belichick had or like Nick Saban had, where all their coaches are doing great in their respective positions right now, and branch off that way. That's my opinion. Get a coordinator position, get somewhere in there, get your feet wet, because you look in the state of college football, there is no more building a powerhouse, because you could have a team that's great one year and then watch them all go somewhere else because somebody wants to pay them more money, and you're like, well, what just happened to our team?
Right.
Well, that sounds like a discussion we can have on another pod, because man, oh man.
Sorry, I dived way into that. I'm sorry, guys.
Well, I appreciate your take on that and the information, because really the state of sports, as we all love to break down and tear apart and enjoy every minute of watching and being a part of, is an ever changing beast. And
without a doubt,
to be onlookers, the more that we watch sports, in spite of all the drama, in spite of all the changes, we still love sports. And we're glad that all of you tuned in to watch us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. We love it whenever you guys watch. As always, as we always say, like, comment, but most importantly, subscribe, because that is what helps us grow and bring more content to you. Next week, we're going to be touching on our Super Bowl 60 representatives, I guess is what we're going to call them.
And I'm giving you guys homework, because there's a segment that I want to do next week that I think would be interesting for all of us to discuss as well. So I'm giving you guys homework for next week as well.
Oh, boy. Well,
I will be sending it in the group chat upon post-wrap.
Oh, boy. Well, we all that and more coming up on our next week's episode. This is Frozen Takes. I'm Alex. I'm joined by my buddies Ray and Fred. Guys,
Fred.
He's Fred. That's right.
Ray.
Right. At any rate,
we don't know who that guy is. He just happened to hop on stream with us.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this episode of Frozen Takes. We look forward to seeing you next time. And as always, stay frosty out there, guys. Till next time, this is Frozen Takes.
Have a good night, everybody.